Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Some secrets are hidden in hotel rooms, hidden phones, and locked drawers. Mine was exposed by a school principal with a microphone. My name is Adrian Bell. At my son's middle school graduation, the principal thanked his father and stepmother for supporting him through a difficult year. My son did not have a stepmother. I was sitting beside my wife of 16 years when the whole auditorium turned to look at us. My wife Sabrina and I had been married for 16 years. We met when we were young, before careers and mortgages and the 1,000 small responsibilities that slowly fill a life. I worked in municipal planning. Sabrina was a senior project manager for a healthcare company. We had one son, Miles, and for a long time, I believed our family was ordinary in the best possible way. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Minneapolis. We had a yellow house with a narrow front porch, an old maple tree in the yard, and a garage full of bicycles, sports equipment, and boxes neither of us had opened since moving in. Miles was 12 when the story began. He was bright, serious, and far more observant than either Sabrina or I realized. That year had been difficult for him. He was transitioning into a new school, struggling with anxiety, and dealing with the quiet pressure of being the kid who always seemed fine until he suddenly wasn't. Sabrina and I attended every parent meeting. We sat with him through homework. We went to counseling sessions. We told him, over and over, that he did not have to earn our love by being perfect. I meant every word. Around the same time, Sabrina began traveling more for work. At first it made sense. Her company had acquired a smaller healthcare services group in Madison, and she was assigned to oversee the integration. The first trip lasted 2 days, then 3, then a week. I didn't question it much. She had always been ambitious, and I had always been proud of that. But small things began changing. She started taking calls outside. She changed the password on her phone. She bought luggage that looked more expensive than anything she had ever cared to own. She also became strangely precise about her schedule. I'll be at the hotel near the client office. The meetings may run late. Don't wait up. I'll call after dinner. And she always did call. That was part of what made it so easy to believe her. She would call from a quiet room and ask how Miles was doing. She would tell him she loved him. She would remind him to practice for his science presentation, or ask whether he had eaten the leftovers in the refrigerator. I did not realize that a person can sound like a devoted mother while building a separate family in another city. Miles's 8th grade graduation took place on a Thursday evening in June. It was not a huge ceremony. No caps and gowns, no grand auditorium filled with strangers, just a school theater, folding programs, a line of nervous 13-year-olds, and parents trying to take photographs without blocking anyone's view. Sabrina had returned from Madison the night before. She arrived at the school wearing a navy blue dress, carrying a bouquet of white flowers for Miles, and looking exactly like the woman I had been married to for 16 years. She kissed him on the forehead before we entered the auditorium. "I'm proud of you," she told him. He smiled at her. That smile is still the part of the evening I have the hardest time remembering. We sat in the 3rd row, beside my parents. Miles's counselor, Miss Alden, stood near the stage greeting students. She had been kind to him all year, particularly during the difficult months when his anxiety made school feel impossible. The principal began calling students up one by one. Families cheered. Cameras flashed. Children crossed the stage, took certificates, and tried to look older than they were. I remember feeling relieved. Miles had made it through a difficult year. We had made it through it together, or at least, that was what I believed. When Miles's name was called, he walked across the stage in a white shirt and dark tie, looking nervous but proud. My mother stood and clapped. Sabrina held up her phone to record him. Then the principal, Dr. Hawthorne, smiled at Miles and said something unscripted. "And we want to recognize the support system behind this young man. Miles has worked incredibly hard this year, and it has been wonderful seeing both his father and stepmother so involved in his progress." The auditorium went quiet around me. I heard my mother stop clapping. Sabrina's phone lowered slowly from her hand. At first I thought I had misunderstood. "Step, mother?" I said, barely above a whisper. My father looked at Sabrina. Sabrina did not look at me. On stage, Miles stood frozen beside Dr. Hawthorne, his eyes moving from the principal to the audience. Dr. Hawthorne seemed to realize something was wrong. "I'm sorry," she said. "I meant your parents, your father and mother." But the sentence had already landed. I did not confront Sabrina in the auditorium. I stood when the ceremony ended. I congratulated Miles. I took photographs. I hugged him. I thanked Miss Alden for helping him through the year. Sabrina smiled in every picture, but when I looked closely, her hand was trembling around the bouquet. We went out for dinner afterward because that had been the plan for weeks. My parents came with us. Miles ordered chicken fingers. My mother kept trying to make conversation. My father stared at the menu without reading it. Sabrina barely touched her food. I waited until we got home. Miles went upstairs to play video games. I stood in the kitchen while Sabrina set the white flowers on the counter. "Who is Miles's stepmother?" She stopped moving. "Adrian, the principal made a mistake." "How would she make that mistake?" "Maybe she confused us with another family. She used Miles's name. She said she'd seen his father and stepmother at meetings." Sabrina turned toward me. Her face had gone pale, but her voice was still controlled. "Maybe she meant one of the school volunteers. Maybe she misunderstood something Miles said. Miles has never said he has a stepmother." She looked at me for a long time. "I'm going to ask you one more time," I said. "Who is Miles's stepmother?" Sabrina sat down at the kitchen table. "Her name is Danielle." I stayed standing. "Who is Danielle?" "She lives in Madison." The room seemed suddenly too small. "Why does a woman in Madison think she is Miles's stepmother?" Sabrina pressed both hands over her face. "Because I told her we were separated." I said nothing. "I told her you and I were separating. I said Miles was having a difficult time with it. I said we were waiting until after the school year to make things official. And Danielle believed you." "Yes." "How long?" "A year and a half." "A year and a half." 18 months of work trips. 18 months of phone calls from hotel rooms. 18 months of watching my son ask why his mother had to leave so often. "Are you living with her?" Sometimes. Sometimes. I rent an apartment in Madison. It's under my company relocation allowance. I told you it was a long-term hotel arrangement. I remembered the expense reports, the vague explanations, the way she insisted she had to keep a few things there because the job wasn't temporary anymore. "And what exactly does Danielle think your relationship is?" Sabrina looked at the flowers on the counter. "She thinks we're married." I did not understand the sentence at first. "You told her you were married to her?" She nodded. "Did you have a ceremony?" "A commitment ceremony. Just the two of us and some of her friends. It wasn't legal, but she believes it is." "Yes. And you let her call herself Miles's stepmother." "I didn't know she had come to the school." "She came to his school." "She wanted to meet the counselor." "She said she wanted to understand what Miles needed before things changed." I looked toward the stairs where my son was sitting alone in his room, unaware that his mother had built an entire future around removing him from the life he thought he had. "You brought a stranger into our son's school and let her introduce herself as his stepmother?" "I never thought she would say it in public." "You never thought you would be caught." I slept in the guest room that night. I did not sleep much. At 6 in the morning, before Miles woke up, I called a family law attorney. Her name was Regina Wallace. I told her exactly what Sabrina had confessed: the false separation, the apartment in Madison, the relationship Danielle believed was a marriage, and Sabrina's decision to involve herself in Miles's school life through a lie. Regina listened carefully. "Do not confront Danielle yourself yet," she said. "We need to protect Miles, preserve the relevant information, and make sure every communication is documented carefully. But Danielle deserves the truth, and she should receive it in a way that cannot be distorted." "What do I do?" "You file first, then we notify her through counsel or directly with clear documentation. Over the next 2 weeks, Regina helped me gather records I could lawfully access. Joint credit card statements showed dinners in Madison. Shared financial records showed recurring payments toward an apartment that Sabrina had described as a corporate lodging expense. A public online registry showed Sabrina had changed her mailing address for several accounts without telling me. Then Regina's investigator found something else. Sabrina had listed Danielle as her spouse on a private health club membership in Madison. She had not simply lied to Danielle. She had built a second version of herself, one where I was the obstacle she was bravely leaving behind. Regina filed for divorce and requested temporary arrangements centered on Miles's stability, including clear communication boundaries and restrictions on introducing romantic partners into his school life without agreement. Sabrina was served at her office. She called me an hour later. "Adrian, please, don't do this through lawyers. You introduced your wife to our son's counselor as his stepmother through a lie. We are doing this through lawyers. Danielle doesn't know the whole story." Neither did I. "Buh, what are you going to tell her?" "The truth, that I am your husband, that Miles is our son, that we were never separated, and that she has been invited into a family that does not exist." Sabrina began crying. I ended the call. 2 days later, Regina arranged for Danielle to receive a factual letter, supported by documents showing our marriage, our address, and the timeline of Sabrina's trips. I did not add insults. I did not send screenshots designed to humiliate anyone. I did not need to. The truth was enough. Danielle called Sabrina's office that afternoon. I was not there, but Sabrina later described it in one of the messages she sent me before I stopped responding. Danielle had asked one question over and over. "Who is Adrian?" Then she asked another, "Who is Miles?" Those questions stayed with me, because Danielle had made choices too. She had ignored things she probably should have questioned. She had accepted a story that was convenient because she wanted it to be true. But she had also been deceived, and my son had been used as a detail in the lie. The divorce took 9 months. Sabrina moved into the Madison apartment permanently for a while, though Danielle ended the relationship within days of learning the truth. The company eventually discovered inconsistencies in Sabrina's relocation expense reporting. I do not know every consequence that followed, and I did not need to know. My focus was Miles. The first months after our separation were hard for him. He asked why his mother had lied. He asked whether she was coming back. He asked whether it had been his fault that she traveled so much. I told him the only truth that mattered. None of this is your fault. Adults sometimes make selfish choices, but you are loved, and you will never have to earn your place with me. He cried that night. So did I, after he fell asleep. A year has passed now. Miles is in high school. He has joined the robotics club, grown 3 inches, and somehow learned to leave every cabinet in the kitchen open at the same time. Sabrina sees him under the schedule we agreed to, and their relationship is slowly finding a shape that belongs to them. But she does not make promises to him that depend on lies anymore. Sometimes I think about that graduation ceremony, the flowers, the certificates, the principal trying to celebrate a room full of children. One accidental word exposed a life my wife had spent 18 months constructing. Stepmother. It was not just a mistake. It was proof that Sabrina had started believing her own story more than the truth. And in the end, that microphone did not ruin our family. It revealed the lie that had already been doing it. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories. And tell us in the comments, would you have confronted Sabrina at the graduation or waited until your child was safely home?
It's just me and you in this room full of silence. Heartbeat skipping, every second feels timeless. Yeah, you trace your name across my shoulder. I read the lines like a secret you whisper quiet. We spend the morning trading sleep for new confessions. Yeah. Your touch rearranging pieces places I tried to hide, never needed signs, just the way you lean closer. Every breath you take is pulling color to my mind. All of these walls start melting when you're closer. Gravity changes, I move the way you want. You don't have to ask, I'm already gone. Drawn where the edges blur, where we both belong. Our rhythm breathing uncontrolled. Write your story on my skin. You turn the ordinary gold. With every promise we begin. Lips spinning stories, truth behind every tease. You hold my gaze like a show no one else can see. We cross that line, no map, but we're both believers. In a world that's loud, your voice is the only melody. Maybe tomorrow's complicated, but tonight you're the pulse I needed. Let doubts fade, let distance break. We're right here on a resting race. Story on my skin. You turn the ordinary gold. With every promise we begin. No way back, I only know you're the place I always am. Room it turns to shadow, but you're